Namaste, dear devotees. Welcome to the ninth day of our Ramayan Saptha. Let us commence with the meditation on Bhagavan Shri Ram. Om Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedhase Raghunataya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha Lokabhiramam Ranarangadhiram Rajivanetram Raghuvanshanatham Karunyarupam Karunakarantam Shri Ramachandram Sharanam Prapadye. Om Shanti 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 Om. Today, friends, we will look at what you and I can take away from the Ramayan to enhance, ennoble, and beautify our own lives, so that we could, in this very birth, discover our eternal nature, our eternal relationship with Bhagwan Shri Ram. The story of the Ramayan is a classic, eternal, universal message of dharma versus adharma, of deva versus asura, of dharma versus adharma, as represented in the battle between Ram and Ravana. Ravana was born in an illustrious family. He was a great scholar who wrote numerous works on scriptural philosophy. He was powerful, dynamic, and beautiful in appearance. As the brilliant, handsome king of Lanka, he had everything one would need to be happy and peaceful. Yet, I don't think any one of us has heard parents name their child Ravana. Why is this? Why does every mother name her child Ram, and no parents ever have thought to name their son Ravana? What made Ravana, this great learned scholar, a demon? He was arrogant, egoistic, greedy, and lustful. His insatiable desires led him to crave more and more power, more and more money, and more beautiful ladies to fulfill his every whim. Covetous desires can never be fulfilled, and the ceaseless quest for them brings only frustration. Therefore, regardless of how smart we are, how rich we are, or how beautiful we are demons if our hearts are filled with anger and greed and lust. This is, in essence, the difference between Bhagavan Shri Ram and Ravana. Both were kings, both were learned in the scriptures, both were charismatic, both were beautiful. What makes Ram Bhagavan and Ravana an Asura? There is one main difference. Bhagavan Ram's heart overflowed with divinity, love, generosity, humility, and a sense of duty. Ravana's heart, in contrast, was filled with avarice, hatred, and egoism. Under Bhagwan Ram's divine touch, the animals became his devotees and his divine helpers. Under Ravana's touch, even humans became animals. How can we become like Bhagavan Shri Ram? How can we become godly, peaceful, and righteous? How to win the war of Lanka within ourselves? Because this battle between Ram and Ravana is raging in all of us. Shri Ram has given us the perfect example through his life and his actions. The way to attain divinity, the way to be perfect, the way to be in peace instead of having a life that is in pieces, is to follow his clear example. Ramchandraji's primary message is, fulfill your duty without any selfish motives. Put other people before yourself. When Bhagwan was exiled to the forest, Ram did not complain. He didn't say, but that's not fair. He did not fight back in anger. Rather, he helped his father fulfill a promise. He lived according to his duty as a son and as a future king. He did not once think about himself, his own comforts, his own rights. Rather, he stuck to his dharma, to righteousness and his duty. The message of the Ramayan is, choose dharma over artha. Choose moksha over kama. According to the Sanatan tradition, the four goals of life are dharma, which is righteousness, artha, which is worldly resources, kama, which is satisfying your legitimate desires, and moksha, God realization. All are important. All are necessary for a full, complete, fulfilling life. Prabhu Ram teaches us that when given the choice, dharma must be chosen over artha. Artha will be your worldly resources, your worldly professions, your worldly path. When Dashrath, the father of Ram, is compelled to banish Bhagwan Sri Ram to the forest for 14 years, instead of coronating him as a king, Ramchandraji takes the path of dharma by peacefully and agreeably leaving the kingdom for the forest rather than choosing the path of artha, his duty as the future king of Ayodhya. Then, at the end of the Ramayan, Bhagwan Ram shows us to choose moksha over kama. After the war in Lanka, Bhagwan Ram must leave Sita in the forest, for his subjects doubt her chastity. How easy it would have been to choose his own happiness over his subjects' faith. How easy it would have been for him to say, you are all stupid, you are all just suspicious. But he does not say that. Bhagwan Ram knows that he is a king first and a husband second. His primary duty is to his kingdom, to bring health, happiness, and prosperity to his subjects. Having Ma Sita remain in Ayodhya would bring only resentment and disharmony. Therefore, he acts once again according to selfless duty and chooses his kingdom over his own marital happiness. Thus, his noble and divine choices, Paramatma teaches us to choose dharma over artha when he leaves for the forest rather than be coronated as the king of Ayodhya. And he teaches us choose God realization, moksha, over kama when he chooses his kingdom over his marriage. As a son, Ramchandra ji holds this ideal before all of us. Obey the commands of your father. Sacrifice your own comforts for your father's dignity. Ravana's ego led to his demise. First, the demise of his spirit and heart, and then the demise of his body. He thought he was the one who ran everything. He thought that he was the doer of it all. Ravana was a great man, but he lacked goodness. And that lack in him, the lack of dharma, made him kiss the dust. Devotees, tomorrow, as we celebrate Ram Navami, as we celebrate the appearance of Bhagwan Sri Ram, let us ask ourselves, is Ram living inside of us? Has dharma taken birth in our hearts? Has the good taken birth in our hearts? Has the power of dharma vanquished the power of adharma within us? Do we want to let Ravana live in us? Let us surrender to Bhagwan Sri Ram, who will then destroy Ravana, who is reigning in our hearts. Ram is the pure light of consciousness, the Atman, the Self. The name Rama means Sarveshu Ramante iti Ramaha, meaning that which revels in every one of us. That is Rama. Bhagwan Sri Ram is the pure light, and Ravana is utter darkness. Ram is knowledge, Ravana is ignorance. Ram is our higher self, Ravana is our lower self. Therefore, we are advised, we are encouraged by our gurus to surrender to Sri Ram. Ram is our very self, Atma Rama. Sita represents the ego, the jiva, the mind. As long as Sita's attention was on Ram, she was ever blissful, be it in the luxuries in the palace or in the hardships of the forest. Similarly, man is happy as long as he is attuned to the inner self. Prosperity or poverty would make no difference. When Sita saw the golden deer, she was enchanted. Desire for a material thing possessed her. She asked Ram to fetch it for her. He asked her to desist from the desire, but she was adamant. This is what we also do. We ask for material things from Bhagavan. Success in business, a gift of wealth, promotion, worldly success, etc. As soon as her desire was focused on a sense object of the world, her Lord moved away from her. A golden deer is a mirage. Similarly, our attempt to find happiness in the material things of the world is nothing but chasing after a mirage. So, friends, when we are overpowered by desires, we are overpowered by Ravana and we lose our peace and bliss. We are all Sitas in exile, but because she sat in the Ashokavana gardens meditating on Ram, she was reunited with Bhagavan. You and I also, who have fallen from grace, can also sit in meditation, engage in sadhana, and reunite ourselves with our inner self, with our inner peace, inner joy, inner bliss, our Atma Rama. The Ramayana, friends, is also a family drama. There are object lessons which every family, members of every family, can take to heart and re-establish family unity, family togetherness, peace and joy and harmony and goodwill in the family. In these days, when the word family means just one's wife and children, isn't it salutary to learn from the Ramayan that it indicates a large body, including brothers, stepmothers, and a host of dependents. The four brothers lived in perfect amity and understanding, each following his own dharma and never coveting another's share. Indeed, each was prepared to sacrifice his share and even himself for the sake of the other. Bharat's superb self-denial, Lakshman's self-effacing nature, and Shatrughna's obedient spirit are classic examples of virtues that keep a family united and strong. Each one of us can have a distinct personality of one's own, but each one should be loyal and faithful to the father figure. The three mothers, each different from the other, no doubt, but each expressing concern for Ram. Even Kekai does it, and thus indicate that they are united in their approach. And Sita, by every word and act of hers, upholds the lofty name of woman. Even in the midst of ordeals imposed on her, love for her Lord never flags. She suffers so that he may enjoy. She dies so that he may live. She is Valmiki's great heroine, cast indeed in an epic mold. We will now look at the law of karma in the Ramayan and how a proper understanding of the law of karma can help one be peaceful and act wisely and correctly in the world. Inspired by Bhagwan Ram's noble life, several characters in the glorious epic remember the law of karma and they draw consolation and strength from it, and we too can do the same. The greatest crisis in Ramayana, so graphically unfolded in the Ayodhya Kand, leading up to the coronation of Sri Ram's Padukas, the sandals, is a striking illustration of the play of Daivam. Daivam meaning providence over the affairs of humankind. Sri Ram was to be coronated as the Yuvaraj, the heir apparent, by the father with the wholehearted and unanimous consent of the subjects. However, Mother Kekai decided otherwise and wanted her son Bharat to be crowned. The noble and truthful king had to agree to her demand. Yet, a most unexpected event happened. Neither Sri Ram nor Bharat was crowned, but the Charana Paduka, the sandals of Sri Ram, was the blessed beneficiary of the kingdom, to the utter surprise of all. Things didn't happen the way Dasharath wanted it to happen. Things didn't happen the way Kekai wanted it to happen. The inability to view facts and situations as such, without likes and dislikes, creates problems and tensions in life. When a problem appears to be without a solution, it ripens into a crisis. In the opening of the Ayodhya Kand in the Ramayan, King Dashrath, after obtaining the due concurrence of all the concerned people, decided to entrust the responsibility of kingship to Sri Ram, who was himself fully qualified and on merits was constitutionally eligible for the throne, being the eldest son. Yet, the cherished and considered decision receives a severe jolt due to Queen Kekai's adamant demand from the king on oath of the crown for her son Bharat and exile for 14 years to Sri Ram in the Dandaka forest. The emotion-charged situation developed into an explosive crisis where everyone in Ayodhya, from the emperor king to the subjects, violently reacted with tears and agony, except Sri Ram, though he was the most aggrieved. The calm and serene acceptance of the situation by Sri Ram and the recognition of the fact of the emperor's promise to Kekai can only be attributed to the perspective developed over the years by the right understanding of the law of karma, the decrees of providence. This is evident from the following striking stanzas in the Ramayana addressed by Ram to the angry, grief-stricken and desperate Lakshman who wished to reverse the trend of events through violent and adharmic means. This is what was said: in both the banishment and withholding of the kingdom given earlier, one must see only the doings of destiny, of providence. Or how can our beloved Mother Kekai change like this? Ramchandraji continues, which man can contend fate's irresistible decree, passed as a result of our previous deeds, good and bad? Continuing, joy and sorrow, fear and anger, profit and loss, existence and non-existence, and many other things in the world for which no cause can be attributed are but the decrees of providence. Therefore, Lakshman, do not blame Kekai. She is but an instrument of providence. Friends, when we understand the law of karma and we live by the law of karma, we will not fight with anybody. We will not blame anybody. We will not grumble. We will not say, why me? We will accept situations that present themselves. And when we are calm in the face of any situation, solutions arise within us. We are then able to deal with the situation wisely, intelligently, correctly. When we deal with situations in anger, in frustration, emotionally upset, feeling wronged and unfairly treated, our response or our reaction is always incorrect. Acceptance is the key to peace, and from peace, the correct response arises. Friends, we will now look at the Mahamala Ratnam, the crest jewel in the gem-studded mala of the Ramayan, Hanuman Baba. Hanuman Baba regarded himself as an instrument of Bhagavan Sri Ram. Whenever he was praised for his achievements, whenever he was applauded, he always said, "It's not me, it's my master. Naham karta, Hari karta. The Lord is the doer, I am only the instrument." This is a sure way, friends, of effacing the ego. If you and I would like to get rid of our ego, then we have to give up the idea of doership. It's called kartrutva bhav. I am the doer. And always feel that there is a higher power, there's a greater being that is acting through me. Hanumanji had that attitude. And it wasn't long before he got an embrace from Bhagavan Sri Ram, because he had become a pure devotee of the divine. Hanumanji's flagstaff is his Ananya Bhakti, meaning his unflinching devotion. Nothing could distract him from his devotion to Sri Ram. Every pore emits the fragrance of his unstinting and unflinching devotion. His is not a blind devotion. It is reinforced with depths of understanding, where all the aspects of bhakti, Shravanam, hearing, Kirtanam, chanting, Smaranam, remembering, Padasevanam, serving the feet of the Master, Archanam, worshipping, Vandanam, adoration, Dasyam, service, and Sakhyam, friendship, and Atma Nivedan, surrender, spiral in him to the status of Bhakta Chakravarti. What a great and mighty character, Hanumanji, serving as a beacon light to those who truly seek success, achievement, and perfection in life. Hanuman is most happy whenever he hears the glory of his master, as confirmed in the following Dhyana Sloka of the Ramayan. Yatra yatra Raghunath Kirtanam Tatra tatra Kritamastakанjalim Vashpavari Paripurnalochanam Marutim Namata Rakshasantakam. Wherever Ramayana is being recited, there the great Maruti, who is the destroyer of Rakshasas, sits listening humbly with folded hands, on his forehead and with eyes overflowing with tears of joy. Hence, true Ram Bhakti and consequential peace and joy in life can easily be achieved by worship of Hanuman. Such a powerful character in the epic, who lovingly served without any expectation and elevated himself in the process, should serve as an ideal for all, especially to the younger generation. As we conclude, friends, let us reflect on what Tulsidas Ji Maharaj said, Bade bhag se manush tan pava, that to be born a human being is a great good fortune. And why did Tulsidas Ji say this? Because only as a human being are we capable of self-realization, self-awareness, God-realization, and not to engage in finding the truth, not to engage in discovering our eternal relationship with Paramatma is truly a wastage of this human birth. I trust that this Ramayan Saptah would have led to an awakening in all of us, that we will all commence very seriously our spiritual life and find our true self in this very birth. The journey itself, devotees, leads to happiness. The journey itself is beautiful. The worldly journey is punctuated with grief and sorrow and pain. The spiritual journey leads to greater and greater and greater peace and joy. Therefore, let us all undertake this beautiful journey towards Bhagavan. That is what the Ramayana is. It's the journey of Ram. And you and I can be that Ram, undertaking that spiritual journey towards God realization, self-realization. Before I conclude, friends, I want to thank His Holiness Swami Chidanandji Saraswati from Paramarth Niketan for providing a large part of today's discourse. Let us conclude with prayer. Om Ram Ram Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranam Tattulyam Ram Nam Varanane. Om Shanti 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 Om. एक बार बोलो वाल्मीकि महाराज की जय, तुलसीदास जी महाराज की जय, सिया रामचंद्र भगवान की जय, पवन पुत्र हनुमान बाबा की जय। हरि ओम तत्सत, हरि ओम तत्सत, हरि ओम तत्सत। ओम ओम ओम।